I'm going to talk a bit more about listening, especially about how to find your way in a lecture. Lecturers will often help you by using signalling or signposting language. A signpost, when you go somewhere, there is a map and an arrow pointing to somewhere. That is a signpost. A signal, hello, goodbye, that is a signal. I'm telling you something. And lecturers use that when they speak, and it can be very helpful. So when someone uses a signpost, you know to write down the new topic, that they are changing topic, and you can make a note of it. Do you have any questions?
Yes, can you give us some examples of signpost language?
Yes. Now I'm going to talk about, let's move on to consider something like that. Often the speaker will say the new topic more slowly or more loudly so that you know there is a change of subject. The speaker might say, now we have finished looking at blah, 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 and we're going to move on to look at blah, blah. Do you have any questions?
Yes, sir. How do we prepare for an oral presentation?
That's a good question. The first point is to consider who the audience are. What is their level of English? Are they beginners? Are they from different countries, in which case you must slow down how quickly you speak? Or are they all from one country? Are they familiar with the subject, or are they lay people? Think about how many people are there. Your style with a small audience of, say, 20 people in a seminar is going to be very different to a lecture hall with 100 or 200 people in. Where will the oral presentation take place? Try to check out, if you can, the hall beforehand. Make sure that the acoustics, that is how people hear, are okay. Maybe you'll need a voice mic. Check that the organisers have given you one. Maybe you'll need a screen for your PowerPoint, your PPT. Check that they've done that. Check with the organisers how long you have to speak for. Think about the purpose of your presentation. And I think most important of all, with an audience, maintain eye contact. There's nothing more boring than someone standing there reading out word by word and not looking at people. Look at the audience. You will see how well you're speaking. If they're bored, they will start playing on their phones, they will go like this, they will do all sorts of things, they will talk to each other. If they're interested, they will look at you. You can tell how well you're speaking. Change the subject. Put some humour in. Use some gestures if you're comfortable with it.
Okay, is there any ways to catch the attention of the audience?
Right, that's a good question. As I said, humour is quite important. Look at them. Be yourself. Don't try to be someone else, because people will see through it very quickly. You will never please everybody. Everyone has different ideas and impressions and needs, but try to aim at the main point of the audience and be aware of what they're doing. It is very easy to tell whether people are interested in what you're saying.
Should we prepare some visual aids?
Yes, most learning in fact takes place by people doing things. So if you can get the audience to talk to each other, they're more likely to remember what they have said. The other 30%, I believe 25% takes place through visual learning and only 5% through talking. And the attention span for talking is very short, 15 to 20 minutes. So most people may not remember what you say. It's a very good idea to have a PPT. For heaven's sake, keep it simple. There are some beautiful designs on Microsoft PPT and the Apple version, I've forgotten what it's called, Keynote, I think. Try to use a simple one without lots of colours. Prezi is also quite zoomy. It's got things zooming in and jumping about. Make sure you know what you're doing, so keep it easy. Check, as I say, that there is a good projector, that it works well. What should you put on a visual aid? It's better to put pictures and a few lines of text. Don't put a lot of text on unless it is something that you want the audience to study and to remember, or some sort of text. Try and put as little text as possible onto your PPT. Layout and font size, a large font and a simple font that everybody knows, and keep to the same font. There's nothing worse than having lots of different fonts on your PPT. And finally, make sure that spelling and grammar are correct, because somebody in the audience will see that it is wrong. How many slides do you need? It depends on the length of the lecture and on your lecturing style, but I would say 1 or 2 slides a minute is best. I want to talk a little bit about paragraph unity. As I said before, keep everything in the paragraph on your topic. It doesn't matter if you have a short paragraph. If you have a different idea, start a second paragraph. Do you have any questions?
Does it mean that we should have all the sentences fit together?
Yes, they should all be on the same topic. Ideally, you should have a transition sentence moving from one paragraph to the next, and then topic sentence, everything about the topic, and the final sentence should summarize what you've been writing about. I'd like to say something about consistency. It doesn't matter what pronouns you use or what tense, but please stick to the same one throughout the paragraph. If you're writing personally, write about I or we, but you stick to that all the way through. If you're writing to the person who's reading, you're addressing the reader, you say you and stick to that. Even more important is consistency in tense. If you're describing something that happened or writing about what an author says, it's okay to use the present. It's called the historic present. For example, Jane Austen writes about Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy. But keep to the same tense. It sounds really crazy when you switch tenses. The final thing is perhaps quite a small point. Americans and British people have slightly different spelling. Words like humour, the British have a U because it comes from French, the Americans don't. There are some words that are spelt very slightly differently. It doesn't matter, but keep to one or the other. Any questions?
Yes, if we're talking about some academic achievements by famous people, should we use past sentence in a passage which is filled with present sentence?
What do you mean by academic achievements?
Like Einstein created some things, theories like that.
Yes, that's fine. If you're discussing Einstein, yes, use the past because he's dead. But then if you're describing his theory, you can use the present. Einstein argues that energy equals the mass times the speed of light squared. I hope I've got that right, because I'm not a scientist. You can use the present in describing something. Yes, that's fine.
Is there any other aspects about the consistency we should pay attention to?
I think those are the principal ones. Something that's very important that I will mention now is singular and plural. So if you decide something is singular, stick to that all the way through, and the same with plural.